Hey everyone, the GASO staff's back after a great weekend at Own the State. The brackets couldn't have shaped up and played out any better, I think. So we're just going to be here today to talk a little bit about, our initial thoughts, not even a week after the event, and kind of talk about, just what we're kind of seeing as the rest of the summer plays out. Sam Lowe here, our fearful leader.
Yes, sir.
Got you on camera for a little longer than the opening this time. We'll start with you. You kind of were a lot of the brain power behind this event. Did it meet your expectations?
It did. The competitiveness, the kids stepping up, the teams all stepping in. Incredible weekend of talent and competition, and kids wanting to win basketball games.
Now, Sam, let's kind of talk about just, after you saw this event, let's kind of look at big picture of Texas basketball. The GASO has been around for 32 years, so you've seen plenty. Just kind of talk about, how healthy the state of the game of basketball is in our state right now.
I think that's a big point to come out of this weekend is, so basketball has always been second fiddle in Texas. It's a football state. That's what everybody says. But we just had Baylor win a national championship, Houston playing in the Final Four, Texas Tech playing in a national championship pre-COVID tournament. 7 teams made the tournament out of Texas this year, most we've ever had. 6 took a victory at some point. So really, the college game is probably as healthy as it's ever been. Then you look at the high school levels and the strength of the programs. I look at areas like 10 years ago that might not have been producing players. Frisco, you're talking 8-10 high schools in Frisco right now, producing players. Katy, the Cypher ISD, the growth in those areas and the growth in the talent and the competition in those areas. So, that I-20 corridor from Crowley through Arlington, Grand Prairie, Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, Dallas has always had a ton of talent, and now it's just popping up in different parts of the state. So the high school game, the high school coaches, and the product they're putting out is as strong as ever. Kids get the athletic period here in the state of Texas, so you're getting 9 months of coaching a year. Then they step into the club basketball. Owners with gyms, turning warehouses into gyms, building their own facilities. So
Absolutely right.
The investment in the club season is as big as it's ever been. Specialized training, kids specializing in basketball at a younger age, getting weight and conditioning training, speed and agility. It's just when you bring everything together, then you got GASO events and other events around the state, and you bring all that together. I mean, it's as strong as it's ever been. I know Mike Kunstad started the Great American Shootout in 1988, scouting service in 89, and just the health of the game and the strength of the game is probably better than it's ever been. And then when you drill down into the 2022 class alone and the talent in that class, we're about to talk about and break down some of that. You're going to have guys that are 25th in the state that in 1998 or 2007 might have been number 6 in the state.
Absolutely.
Just the talent. So that's probably the next thing to talk about is not just the players that were there, because we didn't have everybody, but the players that were there and just players around the state in that 2022 class.
Right. So now, Mass, let's bring it over to you. You kind of had your event director hat on this weekend, but you were also blessed to be at Duncanville High School Court 1 plenty.
I got.
So I don't feel too bad for you. So you got to see a lot of basketball this weekend, as did all of us. But just kind of talk about your thoughts from this event.
Yeah, everybody goes to rankings right off the bat. It's very easy because, some guys will have better games and some guys won't. And when it comes to rankings, specifically with this 22 class, it's real easy to just jump back to what Sam said. It's so deep.
Absolutely.
It is loaded. I mean, you have guys that are outside the top 10, and you've all seen these guys, and you know that they're top 10 players. I mean, I'm about to list off a bunch of guys who, at one point in the weekend, we're like, man, we have them way too low. And it's just a testament to the competitiveness, how good this class is, how deep. Jordan Walsh, TJ Caldwell, Amari Abram, Cam Corrin, Keon Williams, Collin Smith, Ryan Agarwal, Mason Docks, Rylan Griffin, all those, and many more. All those guys are sitting outside of our top 10. It's puzzling because they're unbelievable. They're all very, very good. So it's a testament to the talent that this 2022 class has, and it's going to continue to be fun watching them continue to make moves in the rankings.
And I feel like this weekend, one of the themes was, as you list these players off, we were talking more about the players that made a case for themselves and played well. There were very rarely that we walked away, we're like, oh, that kid that we have ranked there didn't play that well. It's all about who do we have to move up. And it's like, well, if we moved him up, well, this kid played just as well. So, I think that's what you want out of an event where all the top players step up and perform at, I'd say, one of the biggest stages, this weekend was across the country in grassroots basketball.
And I would also point to this class feels more like a tier class. Like, when you put them in different tiers, you have a top 10 tier, there's more than 10 players.
Absolutely.
Appeared in the story. So it was an incredible weekend of basketball. And like you said, players made a stronger case, which makes our job a little bit tougher.
And then Sam, off camera, we talked about, it's if a player drops in the ranking, it's not necessarily what they did to drop. It's the fact that, we have dudes out here making plays and, earning their rankings.
Yeah, that's been a discussion in the ranking world for years. As a guy drops 3 spots or 5 spots, and somebody will say, well, he played great. And they may have. And some other kids just stepped up their game to even a higher level. It's what we saw this weekend. When you're throwing out Southern Assault versus Pro Skills and the talent on the floor and the kids just making plays and each team just going at each other and one kid's topping the next kid. We talk about TJ Caldwell. Kids just he keeps adding stuff to his game. Early on, he's a run the court, make plays in the open court, dunk. Now he's adding a jump shot. Now he's adding some ball handling, some point guard type skills. And you see kids, Jordan Walsh, just making more and more plays and more shots. And you're going, wow, these guys, it's not that somebody's falling. It's kids are just playing up and stepping up and making plays. So, like you said, there wasn't guys going, oh, well, he's just not very good. We got to drop him. It's guys, we're having to leapfrog guys just because somebody stepped up their game so much. And the games were so competitive.
And I think this is the type of year, as we talk about how deep this 2022 class is, where in years before, if you look at rankings, you're like, okay, if you're outside the top 20, those are going to be, smaller level schools that will start to pick at you. There's going to be dudes all the way within the top 50 that are going to go to big name, high profile programs. And that's just how it's just going to be this year with just how deep this class is. So, Blue, let's pass it over to you. I know you had some, you were bouncing back from both gyms.
Yeah.
So you saw a little bit of the 17s, the high level 16s tournament that we also covered as well. Let's talk about your thoughts.
Well, I think my first thought that after looking back at the weekend was Central Texas is going to be back in a big way. I think over the last couple of years, there hasn't been that big name, that power name that everybody has gone out to recruit. But when you look at the 2023 class, we're looking at 4 bigs right now with Zayden High from Smithson Valley, who plays with JL3 16s, Kendrick DeLuna from TMI, Houston Hoops, he's like 6'9", Jalen Crocker Johnson from San Antonio Warren, who's with Fayette Elevate, and then you have Mashai Hill from Pflugerville Hendrickson, another JL3 16 product. And so now you're starting to see this build up, and especially with bigs, 4 bigs are in Central Texas that are going to get heavily recruited. And now they all bring a little bit different to the table. But kind of like what we were talking about the 2022 class, the 2023 class is starting to really pile up some talent, and decisions are going to have to be made when it comes to rankings. And once again, if you're going to look for a big, you come to Texas and you have 4 right there within an hour and a half of each other that you'll be able just to go down 35 and start evaluating. And this 2023 class is going to get their shot because everything looks like in July it's going to be open, and these 4 are going to have some big followers, I think, from the college ranks.
So consensus-wise, I think we all agree that it was, best case scenario with the event, players played. So let's kind of talk about those players that kind of did well. Right now we'll start in our GASO 2022 top 20 rankings, and we'll just kind of touch some players there. Sam, one player specifically really wanted to make a statement, and for good reason. When it's a battle between possibly number 1 and 2 in the state, and you have that matchup, Kante George, you can just tell by his energy. And for those that didn't see the game live or see where we were set up, we were at half court. And Kante did do a good job of making it known that, hey, he knows what the rankings were, and just kind of talk about that from a perspective of us.
He sent a message to the whole state he sent a message to our little media table. He let us all know that he's still the guy. We were sitting there before the game talking, and a friend asked us, he said, Kante, over under 20. And I jokingly said, first half? He had 26 at the half.
Right.
2 4-point plays in the first half. He let everybody know he's the man. His game is complete. Picked it up defensively, made some plays defensively, but just his shot making, his ability to get a shot off, elevate, and shoot over the top of people, finish in traffic, complete game. And I told him after the game, 25 years into this, that was as good of a single game performance in a summer game I've seen. He was elite.
And I think with Kante, I think what we all wanted to see was, just that will to win. And I think it's just like his energy on defense. It's not necessarily that, when you're scoring 40 in a game, you don't necessarily have to be the best defender, in my opinion. But, the will that he had to play with defense, in that Proskos game, he chased to the corner, got a tip block on Kobe Henderson, when they needed it. And I think just, playing with Von Zell and that Southern Assault team, I think they demand greatness. And I've even seen it coming from I school with Brian. And, so a lot of people that he's kind of being around now, the fact that he's playing with that type of energy and passion to win, along with where I already think he's the best scorer in the country, that makes him for a very dangerous prospect, even when he decides to go to the next level.
And a point there is, it wasn't necessarily our rankings that did it. It's the competition in the state.
Absolutely.
Guys like Case and Wallace, Artemio Morris are right there nipping at your heels. It's not like they're bad or they had a bad weekend. They were all really solid. He just said, I got to step my game up to a whole nother level, and he was sensational.
Absolutely. And I think that's, looking back, I think that was definitely the performance of the event, that game against Proskos right there, because it was just special. And he just, from opening tip. Mass, so, Kante George is number 1, and that's not a bad place to start. But talk about somebody that you were impressed with in the top 20 in the rankings.
Behind that performance, the night before when Showtime and Southern Assault went at it, and we got to see Kante versus Arterio, I turned and looked at Blue, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to get better than this right now. Artemio Morris, maybe the most talented guy in this class. He is electric. Really, really special in the open floor. And then in the half court, he was secure with the ball, strong with the ball, took care of it, made plays for others. Everything Arterio did felt within the scope of the game. It didn't feel like he was ever trying to press or make any force anything up. It just felt like it was in the flow of the game, and he was making plays constantly. I don't know what else can be said. He was very, very good.
And one thing I'll say, like as we said with Kante, Keontae's passion, aggressiveness, and will to win and play defense is something that's taken Keontae's game to another level. I think with Arterio, his decision making, and with all the talent he has, being able to just let it come to him, and just it's made him more efficient as a basketball player.
Yeah, I would say I went to a few of his games during the playoff run, and he was just a little loose with the ball, and I did not see that at all this weekend. It felt like he was truly taking care of the ball, and when that's your chink in your armor and you start taking care of it, it's like, oh man, what can't this guy do? So Arterio really, really put on a special performance. Unfortunately, he got hurt in that last game against Urban. But up to that point, man, it's hard to argue that he has a bright future ahead.
I think the other thing with Arterio is we wanted to see him show up every game.
Yes.
Not have that off game, not have that game where he might not go full speed, playoff run. He was there every night. Into this tournament, he was going game in, game out. When he does that, he's putting himself at the top of the class, and not many people can play with him.
And I think also, we did see how great that Southern Assault team was all weekend, and they had Dallas Showtime down quite a bit in that game. And then that, Mass, you said that span of basketball that you saw from him, I don't know if it was about 10 minutes of actual just time, maybe 3 or 4 minutes of actual just game time, was very special, and they got right back into it.
Yeah, drilling threes, assists. He had a teammate, Mason Jones, get hot, and he said, keep getting the ball to Mason. I just saw that, and that's just what leaders do. He understood the flow of the game. He understood a teammate's hot, and he's going to get to the paint, draw some defense, obviously take the attention, and dish it. And he was Yeah, it was a special 10 minutes, and they caught right back up, went back and forth. Southern Assault ended up edging them out, but Artemio really laid it all out on the floor, and Kante picked him up after the game, and it was a sign of respect, and it was just two Titans going back and forth, and Artemio is definitely one of the guys.
And
Absolutely.
just to add to this real quick is that the amount of energy that he put out onto that court against Southern Assault, he did get tired down the stretch of the game. However, that was just him playing, I think, his heart out in that particular game and trying to get to the Final Four. There was a lot of passion out there on that court.
Absolutely. So before I pass it over to Blue, I know he has a big in the top 10 that he wants to talk about. I will say these first two games we just spoke about, Pro Skill Southern Assault and Dallas Showtime and Southern Assault, are 2 game recaps that I've done that are on our YouTube channel that I'll be posting the link directly in the description, so you can go watch those after you kind of watch us finish talking about these rankings. So Blue, there's a big man in the top 10 that you really impressed you this weekend.
And before I throw his name out, let's just put this disclaimer out that this is not the rankings that we're throwing out right now. That these are just guys that we're talking that are currently in our top 20 and just talking about their performance. Zuby Ejiofor for Beast Up. My goodness, when he decides that he's going to be an interior player, nobody can stop him. He's just so strong. His upper body, his physicality, his ability to get up and go get second chance rebounds and then points and putbacks. Very hard to stop. He likes to float out to the perimeter, and he's going to keep the defense off balance because he can shoot that three. And there was a time that he hit like 3 out of 4, and so he's feeling it. He takes I think he missed the next one. So what did he do? He goes back inside where he was going to be able to dominate the middle, and they get to a Final Four. So they're playing at Duncanville High School on Sunday in the Final Four, and he put those guys on his back. I mean, he has some really good teammates with him, but to see him, what he can do productively as an interior kind of power forward, and then transition out to a stretch forward to knock down some shots to keep everybody off balance. His performance throughout the weekend was also impressive.
I think when he picks and chooses when to be that step out guy is key. Saw him last year at Buff's event, have a game where he hit 4 3-pointers. Sometimes those big guys can get too in love with trying to prove to everybody they're a 3-man. It's okay to be a 4-man.
Absolutely.
It's okay to be a 4-5 and just dominate the paint, rebound, and just kill it inside. So when he chooses those moments and steps out, he can hit the shot. Just don't fall in love with it. And he showed it that this weekend that he can be that guy and go put his butt on the paint and just dominate.
So I'll talk about Case and Wallace. Obviously there was a high-profile matchup against Kante George where Kante George is special. But as far as the whole body of work from this weekend, Kaysen hasn't really touched the court since the regional final against Duncanville. So this is his first event, but as a player, he stepped up to the challenge. And I think with Kaysen, just from watching afar, when Kaysen Wallace is on the court, you always feel like that team has a chance to win. And, the way he does things on both sides of the court, and there's a lot of two-way players, but what he does on defense is special in my opinion. He makes plays that you're like, okay, that's not just good defense, that's great defense that a lot of people can't do. And I think that was shown multiple times this weekend as I'm going through the film right now. Just his presence, he started to pick things up each round by round, but, with Pro Skills this weekend, they had a tough game against Crab 5, and I just think without Case and Wallace on the court, you just always they might lose a couple of those games even if he wasn't playing his best. What do you guys think when you saw Case this weekend?
The guy's he's just a complete player. He's hair off here and there, but you can expect that with some time off. But the thing you love about Kaysen is his demeanor's here, and he trusts his teammates. Cruz Davis was feeling it, and he kept getting the ball to Cruz. Mm-hmm. And when it was time to score, Kaysen went and got a bucket.
All right.
And they actually took the lead. He hit 2 free throws with 11 seconds left to take the lead on Southern Assault. Dude's a warrior, competes. What happened this weekend changed nothing in my mind about Kaysen Wallace. That guy is still in that elite tier of players, and he's going to be a special one. I mean, just the winner. Winner is all that comes to mind.
You and I were at the playoff game against South Grand Prairie. We went for like 35 and just took over the game. And like you said, on his defense, he's got to lead the state in like deflections, run through passing lane
Blocks.
steals, for a guard. He's just always cutting through a passing lane and getting out and creating something. So two-way player, elite guy. He didn't do any disservice to his game this weekend by any means.
And what you have to really like is that, like Michael said, he hadn't been on the court since the state semis that was played at SMU against Duncanville. So that's some time off, and he came out and competed. When you talk about guys that are going to make winning plays, you want a winner on the court, you want one big play, whether it's a defensive stop, a defensive rebound. Defensively, how quick he can turn and recover on defense and block shot. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that guy get above the rim to block a shot on a guard or a post player. And you don't see that usually because he's a big physical guard at 6'2", you know, whatever he stands at. But you're talking about, like Sam said, a complete player that's going to win you games. And ultimately, that's what you want on your team, no matter if it's a high school or it is in college. You want the complete player, and that's what Casey Wallace is.
What do you call it on your Twitter? Rim protector.
Yeah, he has a lot of Dwayne Wade, and because Dwayne Wade blocked a lot of shots from the guard position, and like he's up there challenging anybody. You know, he challenged some monsters this weekend at the rim, and you know, I haven't seen him, you know, get dunked on yet.
Lose that battle.
You know, but I don't think he will care to get dunked on. He's always up there. You know, rebounds. You know, if you count his rebounds every game, it's probably double digits. He's just always in there.
You and I were at the Waxahachie game this year, high school game, and he made some big rebounds and defensive plays to win that game.
Absolutely. His intangibles, man, in this class are just kind of different and what makes him so special.
A college coach called him, I think, Jimmy Butler. Like a Jimmy Butler, like with a strong offensive game, and Jimmy obviously has that. But I love that comp. Like, man,
absolutely.
Cason's is as good as anyone.
So Sam, let's move on to another player that, you know, helped their stock just like a lot of these guys did. But Collin Smith, did he miss a shot in front of you this weekend? And you watched plenty.
Like, just stepped out and hit shot after shot. And one time, I mean, it's like 3 feet behind the line. You know, it's kind of one of those where you take a double take. Like, was that Collin Smith from 24 feet? And he just knocked down shots. And he's always had the body and kind of that ability to slide his way to the rim and bounce off of people and get to the rim and finish. And then he's just making shot after shot and handling the ball on the perimeter and just one of those guys we talked about, stepped up, added something to his game, and just keeps showing us more and more. So another one is we're counting and, oh, that guy should be in the top 10. We've said that about 22 guys now, but that's the kind of game he showed this weekend, just complete.
And I think that we also have to take into consideration that these teams are high-powered teams. And so their games are going to translate to that next high level, whether it's high major, mid-major. And so Collin Smith is getting comfortable of who he is as a player on the court and how that's going to translate to his college team. You can look at these teams and go, oh, wow, he's going to be a 4-man. This other guy's going to be a 5. You can pinpoint exactly how they're going to play on the court. And I think that's a testament to these teams. The kids especially, they were willing to play their role. And he was one of them. And really that raised his level of play.
I loved what he did defensively. He took about 4 or 5 charges, always in the right spot, dominating the glass. You know, like I said, we talked about his shooting all weekend, but some of that other things, Coach Fonzel does a great job of getting those kids to buy in on the defensive end, and I thought he excelled there as well.
And as I'm starting to break down all the game film that we got this weekend, you know, one of the things I noticed about his shot making was the timeliness of it. You know, he was hitting shots to stop runs when they needed it, you know. And it's one of those things about playing your role, you know. You might not have the ball in your hand all the time, or you might not have a chance to make plays every single possession, but he was always ready, and he always hit a big shot when they needed him to. So, Mass, let's move on to you. There's another guy that you were really impressed with his, you know, defense.
Yeah, this is a guy who gets a lot of talk about how, you know, his offensive ability, microwave scorer, Rylan Griffin gets going in a hurry. I know you've seen it when he can go for 40 points in a night, 25 and a half. He has that capability, but he's been doing it his whole time in high school. It's just not as relevant, but his defensive ability is truly as good as anyone in the class. He guarded Kante did as good as you can do on what you called him probably the best scorer in America.
Yeah.
And he made Kante work for every shot. Even if Kante was making it, it was a tough make. And Rylan's just another guy that you're going to see excel at the next level just because of his athleticism, what he can do as a scorer, and then obviously when you can guard a scorer like Kante as good as Rylan did, I think any college program would take that.
Oh, absolutely.
I think with Ryan too, like once his body fills out, he's just kind of got that long, lean body right now. He fills out his body over the next couple of years and matures physically. High upside.
So I'll go ahead and talk about a prospect off 3D Empire, Anthony Black. If I'm Sean Ward, I'm walking into any gym very confidently when I know I have Anthony Black to help run that show. I think this weekend I knew he was athletic, but he was going at the rim against anybody that wanted to jump with him. His at 6'6", his ability in transition coast to coast, it was very impressive. Great defense, since he was in ninth grade, deflections from that big wing spot. And his IQ is just really big time. To know that you have shooters like Ryan Iger all around, he knows how to facilitate, and he can score from all three levels. All of a sudden he's coast to coast, finishing with a dunk. Then all of a sudden they run a set, he's in the post, posting up anybody. He's just so versatile in this class, and I think he was one of the reasons why 3D Empire had a very successful weekend. In that Drive Nation game, he gave Drive Nation all they could handle.
Yeah, and you touched on Ryan Agarwal. He put together, I think, one of his better weekends. He was willing to go dip inside and go rebound and really kind of scrape for some balls. And he was just always in the right place at the right time. Of course, he's going to knock down the shots. I think as a staff, we wanted to kind of see him get dirty down there and grabbing the loose balls and hitting them back up court. And I think he did that. And as the games went on, that Drive Nation game, they were so hungry for that game. They came up a little bit short, but man, because of Anthony Black, of Ryan Agarwal, that's their leaders, and they produced out there. And I thought that Ryan was played really well this weekend.
Touching back on Anthony Black, I was reading an article that some writer had written that covered our event and described him as a point guard. Like, he was handling the ball more and looks more comfortable with the ball in his hands. Don't know that he's ultimately going to translate as a point guard, but he's just another guy who's adding more to his game, handling it out top, making some plays. So guys just showing more and more to their games.
So we talked about Rylan Griffin. Let's talk about his teammate that's definitely in the mix for, a top 10 spot, just like a lot of these guys are from 10 to 20, Jordan Walsh.
Yeah, that's a bigger wing. Talking to college coaches, they say, we need a big wing at 6'6", 6'7". Well, there he is. He's sitting there for you. And I think that he's another player that has transitioned into this three-man, that he gets the ball on the perimeter, and he's thinking what he's going to do. And he's going to beat his man off the dribble. And when he starts knocking down those three-pointers or those little soft little jumpers from the corner, all of a sudden he has a step on his defender because they want to close out on him. And then he just easily gets off the floor going baseline and just goes and finishes. And he's going to rebound. He's got that long, lean body. And he's just he's a guy that's been taking some steps that you kind of figure, where's he going to fit into all of this? But when it comes to bigger wings that are not just slashers, he's a slasher. He's a perimeter jump shot guy. He's becoming more of a complete player.
Yeah, and like you said about Zuby, about how when he needs a bucket, he knows where to go. It cannot be understated. He had a game winner against 3D, and it was around the rim. And although it was one of those kind of chaos type plays, he knew, and he's going to get down there. He went through some contact, finished a big shot, and ultimately gave them the edge over 3D. And he led a beautiful championship run. And then we can move on to his teammate, DJ Caldwell, who made a big splash this weekend. Defensively, go.
Oh, well, I've just always loved his overall game, and I remember the first time I saw him was in December of 2019 when he had first come to Dallas Faith Family, and he was a little bit of what he is right now, kind of distributed the ball a little bit, go get some trash buckets, but now he's just put it all together that he is a true versatile 1, 2, 3 guard. You're not going to give him the ball for all 94 feet for 32 minutes or 40 minutes, but he is going to be that ball handler that you're going to need to help you get past the timeline. He's going to get the pass, get the ball to the right teammate. He's going to go underneath. He's going to fight you. He's going to get putbacks. He's going to get layups. He's going to hit little soft, little 12 to 15 foot jumpers. I mean, he's a guy that has just completely defined his game as versatile, in that he's going to go out there and produce in many different ways. So you better be ready to guard him.
Both of those guys were kind of maybe like in a little bit of a box early on in their career. Like Jordan Walsh was 12 feet and in, / 2 dribbles, offensive rebounds, bouncy, and that game's just expanded and expanded to the point that he's a threat from the three-point line. He's a threat to put it on the floor from the three-point line. He can beat you on the offensive boards. He can beat you in the open court. Just beat you so many ways now versus just that 12-foot hang around and do it. Caldwell, early on, okay, to me he was a lane runner, get out on the break, finish with incredible dunks and high athleticism plays. Then watch him at Von Zell's event a couple weeks ago when he's playing point guard for, I guess, Team Griffin, probably, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they had him playing point guard. And then he's handling the ball and distributing and making plays from the point guard. So just to see their games develop, and both of those guys have added so much to their game that you're like, okay, 2 other guys just to throw into the mix of these top kids in this class.
And with TJ Caldwell, one thing I like that he, has taken on a little bit more of a lead guard role. But when he's off the ball, the way he crashes on the offensive board, he's looking to tip dunk anybody. And even if he's not a tip dunk, a lot of times in these big games down in the Elite Eight, Final Four, for Drive Nation, he got an offensive rebound put back when it mattered. And just that, he was able to, he now kind of understands how to use his athleticism to be even more efficient of a player. So for him to be on ball and off ball, that's just another kid that I think, is making a very, very strong case to climb up our rankings. So now we'll move on to another big mass. This kid, has taken steps from, year after year after year. Muscle, 6'10", Cam Cornwell.
Yeah, Cam does it all, and his game. He's now shooting the 3, now taking it off the dribble and burying a little 15-footer. I mean, he is going to make a program very happy with his versatility. He's got the strength to really defend in the verticality to jump up with his length and really defer shots away. And then on the offensive side, like I said, he can really stretch you, or he can be that pick and roll guy who's coming down middle of the paint for an alley-oop constantly. Cam has got so much to like about his game, and I feel like we're still only scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Which is the scariest part about Cam Cornwell.
Yeah, and he's also, his body's maturing.
Mm-hmm.
He's leaning up. And the thing that you just touched on is that he can get from the middle of the paint out to the three-point line to contest a shot, alter a shot. And you don't see too many bigs move, one, that quickly, or have the ability to get there and just be able to alter that shot, then turn around and go get the rebound. And then he's adding three-point shots to his game, and everything just looks so in rhythm, everything he does out there.
And with his high school team this year is where he really, really caught my eye as far as stepping up his game. Like, they're just throwing the ball at the rim, and he's going and getting everything. And just no fear, running the baseline, somebody penetrates, throwing it at the rim, and he's just all over the place, offensive rebound. So, guy just coming on every way.
Yeah, and when I watch him shoot it, just from the film I'm looking at, he's catching the ball at different heights and things like that and just flicking it just very easily, and it looks so fluid. And like we say, his body's filling out, he's making multiple and ones this weekend, really battling in there with the boards. And he still has a frame to put on more weight, and he's already, strong with the ball. Just one of those prospects that, is starting to really look the part, that can really benefit from a really big summer. So another team that we were excited to see this weekend was JL3. Their record might not have matched the talent on the floor, and I definitely am a believer that their best basketball is yet to come. But let's just kind of talk about some of the players that came up to Dallas and played in this event this past weekend.
Well, one of the biggest names was Bryce Griggs, and he's so good with the ball in his hands, that shiftiness. He's not that quick twitch, blow by you, blow you away, but he's so good with that strong body of changing pace, in and out, and just every time he wants to, he gets to the rim. He gets to the rim and tries to finish. So it's kind of a crafty, knows what his game is and gets places with it. And of course, we all know he can shoot. It's he's at unlimited range, but now he looks so good getting to the rim when he needs to.
Yeah, and I think also he showed in spurts that he could handle the load of the decision making too, and whether it was to get it inside the paint or to throw it out to a wing that was open, he didn't have the I'm going to shoot this 25, 20, 26, 27 footer. I'm going to make some basketball plays out there on the court.
And moving, like we said, that team was loaded with top 20 talent in our state ranking. But Terrence Arsenault, mass.
He's a stat sheet stuffer.
Yeah.
He is very well rounded. He can guard multiple positions. You look up, kind of like the state championship. He had 9 blocks, and you're like, then you start counting, and you're like, yeah, he did have 9 blocks, but he fills up the stat sheet. He rebounds. He makes good decisions, passes the ball. He was shooting the ball a lot. We kind of noted that. It felt like in the state tournament he only shot when it was like dire need, had to shoot. But this weekend he was looking comfortable out there, shooting the 3, and then that's just going to add to such a high-level prospect.
And, from Terrence Arsenault, let's just go ahead and move on to Austin Nunez, who's also on that team.
Well, Austin played off the ball because of Bryce Griggs, but the kind of things that Austin brings to the court is that he does a great job of reading defenses. He's got a great looking shot, and when you get him moving without the ball, he's going to find that open space to be able to catch a shoot or even just to drive by somebody.
Absolutely.
Where he impressed me was when we saw him against high school during the school season with the ball in his hands, using pick and roll, his ability to turn the corner on a pick and roll, make decisions, dump passes, get in the lane for floaters. Really good with the ball in his hands, turning corners, and then creating for others as he gets those paint touches and just constantly breaking down the defense, putting pressure on the defense. So in the summer setting, like you said, their best basketball's ahead of them. They're still finding their roles, who needs the ball more, who's going to keep the ball, who's going to make the plays. So as they work that out, they'll be better as a team. But we've seen the individual talent at different times.
No, for sure. And like we said, I feel like, they're going to continue to figure out pretty early. It's April, so, I'm excited to see what that team looks like June and July.
And take note, they played in one showcase earlier in the later part of March. Bryce Griggs jumps on the team for this week. They practiced, I believe, in Duncanville. It was either Thursday night or Friday morning. So they're figuring out their team and their roles.
So, as we finish with JL3, let's kind of talk now with a player that we weren't sure was going to be in the event, and that's Amari Abraham, who ran with RL9.
Man, he is as smooth as a guy that you're going to see, has the ability to really shoot it. And he's a guy who is a true combo. He will play the point guard at spurts, and your team will not miss a beat. Amari is a guy who Blue you saw and were really impressed with. We saw his high school run, and he was phenomenal.
Yeah, he's the one guy. I think when we were watching him in high school, you could see him dictate the pace. When he wanted to score, he'd sit out there on the perimeter and shoot and shoot the 3 well, and then get to the basket. He defends too, and I saw him a couple weeks ago at the Spring Icebreaker back in March, and he's a guy that I put it out on Twitter. I mean, he's coming for somebody's top 10 spot. But as we have continued to talk, you can't stuff 22 guys into 10 spaces. And so, but he's really one that is, golly, if I'm a high major coach, I'm looking up every single film, getting my hands on everything to really evaluate him, because he does so many things great out there on the basketball court.
Absolutely. So now let's go back to another team, Texas Impact, who we were excited to see with Robert Jennings, who, might be one of the hotter names on the recruiting trail as far as just recent offers. He ran with Texas Impact this past weekend. Let's kind of just touch on him. Sam?
I caught them for a game and a half, and he can get up and down the court so well. Good speed, and then he'll attack the rim. When he gets that locomotive train body going, he is going to get to the rim. He may run through somebody, over somebody, but eventually he'll get out of his way because he's a big man, and he's got some ball skills, some touch. He can step out and shoot it. So his game just keeps elevating, bringing more to the game, and he's going to be really nice.
I love the way he makes plays from the top of the key. He's able to really work out of there, take a slower defender off the dribble. He does a little nice attack and spin in there and can finish with either hand. Sometimes, if he gets deep enough, if he's dunking that. But he's just one of those guys that I've seen this just high school season that just continues to pick up offers. And I'm just excited to anytime Texas Impact gets to play, it's an opportunity for Robert Jenks to really just improve his stock.
It's all about power to his game. There's from the rebounding to he wants to take as many opponents with him to the basket and go and finish. And I mean, that's the first thing that comes into mind is that if you want somebody with some strength and somebody that's going to attack the basket, that's him.
So now let's move into some players that didn't participate, whether it's injury or just weren't at the event. And let's just start with a guy that we all really loved from 2 weeks ago at our Houston GASO, and that's PJ Hagerty with the Houston Superstars. Mass?
Yeah, something that's really special about PJ that people don't, I just feel like appreciate in the basketball world is he has a great ability to keep defenders off balance, get to the rim, and get fouled, and then finish. And it's just a constant thing with him. If you're getting to the line 10 to 12 times a game, that's a skill. That's not just that's not something any Joe Schmo can do. And PJ has the ability to get going and put up these gaudy numbers because he gets to the foul line. The game runs at his pace, like we've all discussed. And then if you try and back off of him, he's going to bear the shot. So, I mean, PJ's got a lot to offer.
And Sam, you like just his size and just up right next to him. You just talking about how big of a guard he is.
Yeah, when you see him in person, he's got a college body already. The broad shoulders, the broad chest. So he's got that change of pace game where it's just that in and out, and he gets you off balance with the change of pace. He goes left and right as well as straight downhill, gets that shoulder into you, and then he's still strong enough to finish. And so many high school guards can get just knocked off their path with a bump. And he's just a bigger body, college body already. They can just play right through you, get to the foul, get the three-point play, and just constantly walk into the line. And people get frustrated when they're playing against him because they think he's getting every call, but he's creating those calls. He's creating the contact and drawing the fouls.
Like you said, the stop-and-go action along with the angles that he takes in the paint and his quick little drop of the ball into the basket just really wears on opponents because he's just going to – it doesn't matter how big of an opponent, he's going to get the ball over them.
Absolutely. And, while this next player did play, but he's also outside of the top 20, I feel like, Mass, we got to talk about Mason Docks. He deserves to be in this segment right now.
Yeah, I did a GASO minute on him last week. He's a special player. You look at him, you say, oh, he's a little small, but a high-level defender. He was guarding Anthony Black the game in Houston a couple weeks ago. And then he scores at all three levels. He's so natural at just like getting in there and going off foot or just keeping defenders on their heel and scoring in unique ways. And he just very crafty basketball player, and he's a true point guard. Blue, we talk about that. That's an extinct group. There's not many of them.
No, there's not, and he's going to create for himself, but most importantly, create for his teammates and get them the ball in the right spots. I think that he, like you said, the speed of the game, he brings it to the court. He's gonna, if he wants to play fast, he's going to speed you up, and even though he speeds up, he's still under control offensively. Making the passes, and defense, he's so quick. He just gets up into those gaps.
Yeah, he's one of those kids that I filmed, and I'm the highlight guy, and I'm just watching matchups, and there's nobody that's been able to just consistently guard him. He's just a blur in transition in the half-court set, and he doesn't need much space to get a shot off, especially at being a little bit of a smaller guard. That's one thing that he really does well.
Transitioning back to guys who didn't play this weekend, but we've kind of had our eye on Alexander McWay, McKinney. Sam, you talked about he falls into our winner category. Tell us why.
No, he just makes every play to impact the game. He's going to take a charge. He's going to block a shot. He's going to grab a rebound. He's rotating on defense. He sees the action, understands the game. Little things that you don't get credit for and don't appear in a box score. But he's just helping you win the game, and then somebody else is getting the highlight reel play, but he started it with something he did, and then he's starting to add stuff. He's not just that 4 or 5 guy inside of 10 feet dunking the ball and grabbing rebounds. Now he's stepping out and shooting threes. I saw him 2 high school games both games, stepping out and shooting and knocking down threes. Saw him at Buff's event, Von Zell's event with Trey Young's team, making plays, making shots. So, kid that impacts the game in so many ways, and just at the end of the game stacks up to a W.
I think early on he was more just of an inside presence, getting some putbacks, using athleticism. Now he's stretching his game out there where you can kind of maybe pinpoint him going, you know what, maybe he's just going to be a bigger wing, developing into that role to put the ball on the floor, step out, knock down some threes. But the one thing that is consistent with him, even though if he lets the ball fly from the perimeter, he goes to the basket to go rebound.
Absolutely.
And it's not an area rebound. It's chasing it down, using his long arms to go grab it, and then turning up the court. And so I think that that's one thing that you need to keep an eye on, not just Jordan Walsh, it's also Alex, that where he can be that bigger wing that the high majors are going to be looking for.
So I know, the GASO staff after this weekend has a lot of, decisions, and, it's going to be fun conversations to make. Because, Sam, when does the new ranking come out?
We'll look at a new one after San Antonio event. So by then we'll have 4 GASO events, plus we've stopped in at a couple other events, going out to Drive Nation for this weekend, watch some kids. So by the time we get to mid-May, we'll have seen a good chunk of the talent in the state and be able to sit back together and
the thing I like about y'all three is, just like college coaches, a lot of them can't be at these events. They have to rely on streams. And, Matt, you do a great job of, even during the high school season, you're like, I'm not going out to watch a game tonight because I'm going to be watching these streams or watching these replays. It's not just about one event. Now that there's a lot of different event directors, like we said, Von Zell, Buff's event, you went down to the Spring Icebreaker. There's a lot of basketball to be had, which is definitely going to, help with the decision making going forward. I think in the coming days, we're going to be having some more content, GASO minutes and things like that. There's a lot of kids in the top 100 that really help their stock at our GASO Own the State that we're going to be touching on. But for now, thank y'all for having us. Sam, Blue, Matt, and Mike, and we'll see you soon.